All right. So circling the hips, and especially on a Saturday morning, to me, it always feels like really have to check in with the body to see what happened. Taking your noticing down your legs to your ankles and your feet. And then slowly turning the other way and taking your noticing perhaps up. These are just suggestions through the low back, the middle back, and behind the heart, the upper back, and the neck and the base of your skull. And then slowly releasing that movement. We're going to go to the middle dantian turn. So you're keeping the lower body basically stable and just gently turning from the heart center. So it's a trickier move, but kind of nice for getting a little bit of digestive organ circulation and massage. And there are times, of course, we know that moving the spine, being able to have some ability to move the spine helps with the lower body, as we've been working on by pulling the clothes left and right, turning the spine to better set ourselves up to find balance. And then letting that go and rolling through the shoulders. Feeling how that can help you open up the upper lobes of the lungs. So if you've done a lot of desk work or you haven't really moved your shoulders around a lot, those upper ribs can get kind of glued together and the clavicle sort of gets stuck down on the rib cage. And by lifting the shoulders and rolling them down, the clavicle's moving up and down like a little windshield wiper. And it helps the subclavius muscle underneath the clavicle to just kind of release a little bit. And then, of course, feeling the sternum stretch a little. And circle the other way. Right, and then bringing the ear towards the shoulder. Again, no force. Just checking out what your range of motion is naturally at this moment. Turning out the opposite hand. All right, and I'm gonna do a abbreviated roll down. So I'm just gonna drop my nose and roll my spine to the point where I'm just hands are at my knees and let myself do a little side to side roll. This can be intense on an SI joint if the SI joint is unhappy. So you just want to keep it small, or simply stay in the forward drop and not do the roll side to side if it's bothering you. I have a lot of sympathy for SI joints since I really went through a pretty big SI joint dysfunction years ago. Okay, I'm gonna drop my knees and let my arms float up. And then press down. We're gonna do a little bit of a warm up for the upper back. So just pressing the hands behind you and then rotating the palms outward. So you're kind of squeezing your shoulder blades together, and then drop your tailbone and bring your chin in. And then slowly release that and let the arms float up. And this time we're going to start the rotation from the downward position. As you push back, rolling the arms out so the palms, as much as you can, are facing outward. Chin in, tailbone down. So you're really focusing. When the chin goes out and the tailbone goes out, you're taking the intensity off of the strengthening that we're trying to do. You bring the chin in and drop the tailbone, and it really focuses the energy between the shoulder blades and helps with a muscle called serratus anterior. And then I'm going to float down, and then palms down, float up. Gives you a nice relief of those areas, and then press down. Start rotating the palms outward as you push back together, and then up. Chin in, tailbone down. Really helps to strengthen that upper back. And then slowly release. So we're going to float up and just do a few of the arm Qigongs, pressing the palms out, lifting through the crown, sinking into the tail, making yourself as long as you can at this moment through your spine. Slowly returning. One arm up, one arm down. Chin in, tailbone down, lengthen from the feet to the crown. And we're going to come back and just go one more time up and down. Turn to the side. And I often forget this. Try to keep the hips more square as you open to the back. Chin in, tailbone down. Okay, so we're going to bend the elbows. Again, drop the tail so you don't hyperextend your back as your elbows go up. Really focus the energy in that mid upper back, and then roll the elbows out to the sides and open. Come back to the front. So of course I'm training my shoulders to be able to move in multiple directions and strengthening the little muscles around my shoulders to be able to do so. But at the same time, I'm working on my my back, noticing that the back strength of my back has a lot to do with my arms. So I'm going to turn my foot out and sit down and open the elbows, and then just turn to the front. This is a move called close hands that we don't do in our little move, but it's really an arm lock, locking at the wrist and locking at the elbow, and then come back, squeeze back a little bit, push forward, And then bend. Drop the tail, lift the crown. Rotate the body. And as you sit down, you drop your elbows. Still to each side. Open the arms. And turn the heart towards the diagonal to bring that back hand, the long hand forward, close, and then soften the hip and come back in. Okay, so we're going to do that sit and hold the ball and turn the body and watch the ball move left. So I'm just going into the first turn of our form. So here's where we're kind of working on, I'm not doing anything with my arms at the moment, so there's no confusion about what is making my arms move, right? I'm turning on my heel, I'm turning my core to turn my leg, and that's why the arms are moving. Okay, so I'm gonna just go ahead and do the clothing grab. And I just want to feel that the turn of my core and the turn of my leg. If it starts the other way, so again, bringing it back, turn of the core, turn of the leg. I like to switch my hands and go the other way. Turn the core. So you just feel a little introduction of movement through the core and then through the leg. And then through the core and through the leg. If I start with the toe and with the leg, the tailbone gets locked out and I separate upper from lower. And I want to keep upper and lower continuous with one another. All right, so we're going to go into the vertical ball. So we turn the body, turn the arms to the vertical ball while turning the leg. So I'm going to sit towards my right foot. And in this case, I'm going to let my head look forward. So basically, my spine is rotating to one direction, the direction of my foot, and my neck, because it's free to look in different directions that are different than where my spine is turning, we're on purpose turning the head and the gaze forward. Okay, we come back. Feeling into the core, letting one hand drop under the other hand, letting the turn the leg, and last, letting the gaze look forward. Feeling that turn, counter turn. So that has to kind of be built in because sometimes the eyes need to look where we're going before the body goes. So that feeling that turn, counter turn is helpful. So my core, the ball, my leg turns because the core is turning. And then the core turns, the arms change, and the leg is pulled in by the core movement. Core, hands change, leg comes with the core. Core, hands change, leg comes in with the core. And it's just setting our priorities of movement, rolling the central cylinder. That's what we've been covering the last couple of weeks. So we're going to do a little bit more warm up. We are used to doing the Fundamental Qigong, the vertical moving of the ball, the horizontal moving of the ball, the side bending moving of the ball, so that we exercise all of the main directions of that our spine can move independent of the legs. But this can be done in a channel. So this Qigong is doing those movements, but now instead of being in a horse stance, I'm in a channel. So I'm going to do this to the side so that you can see a little better. So I'm in a channel and I'm just going to hold the ball and the rotation. So this is straight up horizontal rotation of my spine, low back, middle back, upper back, low back, middle back, upper back. And you could get more upper back into this movement simply by, so you fold the hip, you always soften the hip. It's not a knee bend. If you bent your knee, you've gone too far. It's just a little sit down of that sit bone. Fold the hip, that helps you to release the sacrum and the lumbar junction, and you can more easily turn, and then you can just spiral up the spine. To get your upper back more involved, you just turn enough that your front hand, the opposite diagonal, reaches more, not on its own, but turning your spine, you reach more towards your toes. Another way of saying that is the backward moving elbow is pushing on some invisible something. And then the whole ball moves. So you can ask for more turn from your upper back. And then you release. The release takes you to the middle, and you start to soften the front hip and turn from your low back, middle back, push through the outside moving elbow, and bring the inside hand a little closer to the foot. So now you're getting a bigger spiral through the entire spine by including the upper back. And that the usefulness of that is, we do ward off, the ward off. Here I'm pushing out, this hand is taking over. This actually could become a block. It could be blocking my center. And if I built that in, not by squeezing my armpit, but by rotating my upper vertebrae, I can keep the integrity of my circle and still be able to turn through the spine and guard myself with the back hand. Because the other hand is out following the last move, the backhand takes over the center. Okay, so that helps us to get the mobility through the spine to be able to do that. All right, so I go soften the hip, kind of like I'm sitting that sits bone on a chair, mobilize the low back through the middle back, and then that backward moving elbow, imagining you're pushing on somebody to bring the opposite hand towards the foot. Now you got more your upper, and in this case, we're following the ball. The head is simply following the motion. I'm not looking left or right. I'm just following the motion. Okay, and then if you get a good turn through your entire spine, it's like wringing something out. And when you let go of the ring, it starts to unravel by itself. So if you have enough turn or enough wringing happening, when you let go, you just go back to the middle. Fold the hip, turn the low back, through the middle back, through the upper back, move the outward elbow, push it back to bring the other hand towards the foot. Feel that real wringing of your spine, and then release, and just let it release back to the middle. The next piece of the work is sit the back hip, turn low back, middle back, push the elbow, bring the opposite hand, and release. And you might not get that far, and that's fine, because what you don't want to do is start moving your arms to get there. You want it really to be from inside. Okay, so then we know that the next thing, that's horizontal movement of the spine. Spinal rotation governs horizontal movement. Now we want to do up and down, and we're going to combine up and down with moving from foot to foot. So I lift my heart, and then I fold and I open my low back over one foot. Just let that stretch happen. And then move across. So now I'm doing a rotation, but I'm in the forward bent position. And then I'm going to come up, lift my heart, and fold forward. Low back, upper back, the vertical dimension of movement of your arms. Lift the heart and open the back. And then swing across and lift the heart and then open the back. Same thing that we do when we do the horse dance, only we're doing it in a channel. Okay, this is not part of Alex's Qigong, but we're going to do it. So lifting the heart, and this time traverse with your heart up, because that helps you with other moves in the form. And then drop down, and then we're going to go up, lift the heart, and traverse. The traverse is always going to be with the hip fold and the spinal rotation, and then flexion, and extension. And then traverse with your heart up and fold. Open the back, lift the heart, and traverse with your heart up. Down. And then come back up to neutral. The next one that we usually do is side bend, right? So we're going to side bend but move through the horizontal movement and the vertical and get the vertical, horizontal, and side bending. So we begin by dipping the elbow and the hip, side bending, and then lift into extension of the spine, side bend, rotate, flexion of the lower spine, extension, side bend, rotate, flexion, extension. I say all these anatomical words, eventually you'll get used to it, but it's to help you build a sense of clarity about what dimension your spine is moving in. And that really helps with things like push hands, if you ever get to the point where you want to do push hands with somebody, because if somebody's doing one direction of movement, the way out is to use a different direction of movement. And so if you understand your directions and it's not all muddy in your head, then you can get good at push hands. Okay, so I'm going to come back, and whether or not you ever do push hands with anyone, understanding how your body works can really, really help you to heal issues that you have going on with your spine. All right, so we step into the other direction. Again, I'm doing these from the side, so it's easy for you to kind of see. The first movement is just studying rotation. Hold the ball, hold the hip, rotate, low back, middle back, upper back, outward moving elbow, pushing, bringing the forward hand into towards your front foot. Release that. Just release the whole wringing. You come back to the middle, and then you start to sit through the back hip. Rotate, low back, middle back. Push through your backward moving elbow to bring your hand towards your foot. You know, at the beginning, I couldn't do that much of a turn, but over time, studying these exercises, I've been able to turn more and understand the turn and where it was coming from in my body. So it's not coming, people often do this because they're trying to make the movement outside look like what I'm doing, but it's not actually coming from the inside. It's better to wait, say, okay, this is as far as I can go, but have it truly be a rotation. The rest comes once the lower learns how to rotate and the middle learns how to rotate, then the upper can learn how to rotate. You can't really skip a section. It's all like one continuous spiral. So you do the best you can. Keep your knee with your toe, sit your hip, spiral through the spine, and know that if you keep practicing this, it'll just get easier. Things will start loosening up. Little things that need to be stronger will get stronger. Okay, so we go into vertical movement. So vertical movements up and down. So open up my low back, and you notice that my knees are not bending. I'm not going up and down by using my knees. That's very important. This is a spinal exercise. I'm using my legs. They're holding me steady. They're getting warm. The insides of my hips are mitigating the changes in my spine, but my knees are not involved. So it's like I'm bowing. I'm opening up my low back. And then I come up and I'm extending through the upper back. And then, sorry, I started that the wrong direction. Come across, rotate the spine, and then extend. Keep the tailbone under you, really let the energy sink, and then drop forward, open up the low back, shift across, extend, and sink. Across, extend, and sink. Come across. And now we're going to go extend and stay in extension. So this just helps me, those of you who do single whip, it's an exaggeration of the movement, but sometimes you have to exaggerate to get that sense of extending, rotating in extension. And for those of you who don't know what single whip is, I'll show you in a moment. So I extend, and in extension I do rotation, and then flexion, and extension, and rotation. So the last movement for the spine, all this while, even though I'm not apparently moving my legs are getting a warm up. I come back to neutral and I side bend. So side bend has rotation and flexion, and then extension, side bend, rotation, flexion, extension, rotation, flexion, and extension, side bend. And your legs the whole way are trying to figure out how to deal with this weight shifting of your torso. So they're working. But your spine is really getting a lot of movement. And come up, and one more. And lift, and then turn and just come back. So I would say if it's cold, if you don't have a lot of time to warm up, that Qigong will get you warmed up, because it asks a lot of your whole body. You're doing a lot more movement. Okay.